Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Item Breakdowns, a series where we take a look at each item individually and break down their basic stats, appropriate build path, as well as the animations and visuals that you'll expect to see in-game. Today we're back taking a look at another Bruiser mythic item called Stridebreaker, a great AD item that gives you passive movement speed as well as a dash if you're an immobile Bruiser. This is great to pick up if you're looking to close the gap on some ranged champions. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into it. Now, jumping right into it, the first thing we're going to take a look at is the basic stats. So right away we see we have 20 ability haste, which is equal to 17% cooldown reduction, 45 attack damage, 20% attack speed, and 300 health. So with the stats of this item giving us cooldown reduction, 80 attack speed, and some health, it does not give us any ability power, hard tank stats, or critical strike or lifesteal. So this tells us that this item is meant for Bruiser and Fighter style champions. Now jumping down to the passive portion of this item, it has one passive and it reads as follows: Unique Heroic Gait. Dealing physical damage grants you 30 bonus movement speed for 2 seconds, so akin to the old Trinity Force and the old Phage. As long as you are consistently dealing some kind of physical damage, you are going to get this extra bonus movement speed. Now, jumping down to the bonus mythic passive, this empowers each of your other legendary items with 3% bonus movement speed. So following the standard item build formula with boots, mythic, plus 4 legendaries, which gives you 6 items, by late game you're going to have an additional 12% bonus movement speed. Now, in addition to the passive portion of this item, it does have an active component, meaning that it can be used as if it were a spell, and it reads as follows: Unique Halting Slash. Dash up to 200 units to a target location. This cannot pass through terrain, however, and deal 100% of your AD as physical damage to enemies in a 400 unit radius centered around 100 units in front of you, slowing them by 60%, decaying over 2 seconds. This does have a 20-second cooldown, and it is reduced by ability haste. Now, in terms of what this looks like, it is a small dash, but the slowing effect we are going to get to when we get to the visuals and animations. As always, this is limited to one mythic item, so once you build this, you won't be able to build any other mythic items in the game, just boots and legendaries. So now that we've covered all the stats for this item, I want to get into the build path for this item and the appropriate way to build the epic items that build into this mythic. Now, the first item that we're going to rush is the Hearthbound Axe. This gives us 15 attack damage, an increase of 15% attack speed, and has a passive as follows: Nimble. Auto-attacking a unit grants 24 melee, 10 for ranged champions, movement speed for 2 seconds. So the reason we're rushing this item first is because not only does it give us attack damage and attack speed, but it also gives us extra movement speed for auto-attacking, which is going to allow us to apply extra pressure in lane as well as keeping up with our opponents during a trade. Now, the second epic item that we're going to build that builds into Stridebreaker is the Iron Spike Whip. This gives us 30 attack damage and does have an active component. Just like I had mentioned before, this can be used as if it were a spell. It reads as follows: Active Crescent. Deal 75% of your attack damage as physical damage to nearby enemies with a 50-second cooldown, being reduced by ability haste. Now, the reason we build this second versus the Kindle Gem is the Kindle Gem gives us 200 health and 10 ability haste. Now, because Iron Spike Whip gives us more damage as well as an extra damage dealing ability, this outweighs the Kindle Gem build second because of the fact that we get this extra damage. And as I had mentioned, we build the Iron Spike Whip second, then the Kindle Gem third, and then once we have all 3 components plus an additional 200 gold, we will have our Stridebreaker completed and ready to go. So now that we've covered the appropriate build path, I want to get into the visuals and the animations that you'll expect to see in game when using Stridebreaker. So starting with the epic items, we're going to take a look at the Hearthbound Axe first. Now you can see here that when Fiora auto-attacks the enemy dummy, she gets a starry movement speed animation underneath her. This tells you that the movement speed component of Hearthbound Axe is active and she is getting that boost in movement speed. Now, looking at the Iron Spike Whip component, you can see here that when I activate Iron Spike Whip, there is a gray circle animation that swings around Fiora, and you can see also that when you are in range of an enemy, as an example with this enemy dummy, they take damage from the active from the Iron Spike Whip. And now taking a look at the Stridebreaker active, like I had mentioned at the stats portion of this video, I was going to go in depth as to what the dashing 200 units with the 400 unit radius looked like in terms of the animation. So essentially how Stridebreaker works is you can see here in the slow-mo animation that when I initially activate it, Fiora gets that little dash forward. But then in front of her, she has that circle animation that when it hits the enemy dummy, gets a chain around them and they take some damage. So essentially what happens is you get the dash and then you get this circle effect animation in front of you. And you'll know that the slow from the item is applied when A, damage is dealt, but B, you also get that chain animation that goes around the enemy. Now, the important thing to note here is that you can affect up to 5 enemies, or 5 enemy champions, I should say, with everybody that was within that circle radius. But also, you can see here that this is activated and moves you in the direction of the placement of your mouse, not your last movement command. So when it comes to activating Stridebreaker, just keep in mind that you are free to activate it and make sure that you keep your mouse cursor in the direction that you want to dash. Well guys, that's all I have for you today with this brand new AD Mythic item for Bruisers and Fighters that gives passive movement speed as well as a gap closing dash for immobile champions such as Darius Garen or even Set. This is a great Mythic to pick up and try out if you're looking to get to those ranged champions that you're having a hard time reaching. As always, guys, don't forget to hit me up on Twitter, and for some awesome video game photography, don't forget to hit me up on Instagram, as well as extra content, swing over to the community tab. Link will be in the description for that. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we will see each other again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.